cruiser foundered. Off to a great start.
Hey guys, how's it going? And today I have a really exciting replay for you sent in by Rolkatsuki in their Dunkirk. Now, Rolkatsuki really likes this ship. Most of the replays they sent me are in this ship. Now, what is the Dunkirk known for? It's known for being fairly accurate, but it has very small guns with a fast rate of fire. These guns are also known for being good high explosive spammers, but the ship itself is not very tanky. It has very light armor all around, but it's very angled at the front, and it's very good at bow tanking since both its guns face directly forward. But there are quite a few ships now at tier 6 that can start overmatching that front armor and doing damage to the front, not counting ships that can shoot IPHE, which can do a lot of damage to superstructures, and I do believe pen bow armor on this thing. And just if you catch it anywhere in the side, it takes a ton of damage. So it's really good at bow tanking, but it's really good at doing it in moderation and at mediocre ranges. It doesn't have a lot of secondaries, which doesn't make it a very great ship for brawling. But it does have both its main guns on the forward deck, which makes it very good for that bow on tanking style like I explained. And I'm kind of going in between whether it's good for or what it's not good for. Continuing what it's not good for, anti-aircraft it's absolutely terrible at. It doesn't have a very good turn radius. It turns like in Iowa because it's a very long ship. But it is very fast. At 31 knots it tops out at. So it does get around the battlefield really well with the cruisers, and it does do a very good job of taking out cruisers in the process. With these small guns, the armor piercing is pretty devastating to cruisers if you catch them in the broadside. Though they do lack the penetration sometimes to pen them bow on. And they really do lack the alpha damage if you don't get a lot of citadels or something. And despite all this, Rolkatsuki likes to play it as a little bit of a brawler, and it's quite interesting how they do it, and I've actually taken to copying it because it produces quite amazing results if you know you can overmatch your opponent, or if you know you're not going to catch torpedoes in the side of the ship. Now there's a New York sailing way out there. Rolkatsuki's going to fire, but it was kind of a blind shot. Airplanes coming in, but Rolkatsuki also has two cruisers. One's only an Emerald, which is not a good ship at all, but the other's a Nuremberg, which should be packing the defensive fire capability. And those planes are melting. Like I said, the Dunkirk itself, not great anti-aircraft. It's only taken out one plane so far, but the little group of ships they have right here have devastated the team. Or not the team, the little squadron that the planes had. And there is one of the enemy destroyers right in the channel at fault line. Now you'll see a lot of ships right here. They'll either turn off to the left or they'll sit in these little openings and kind of camp the back line until they know they have the advantage. What I was surprised at this replay, and when I wasn't looking at the map, I was surprised that to find I was on fault line, is that Rolkatsuki doesn't play it this way. As you can see, they've taken no measure to slow down. They're charging right into the fray and basically praying that that destroyer is out of the conflict. They haven't come back. They haven't decided to bother them at all. And a little bit of a map view there. But basically, they're hoping that they're not going to catch a full swing of torpedoes inside as they come around this corner. And there is another destroyer. That is a German tier 5 destroyer right there. Once again, not a great ship, but has very good, or has decent torpedoes. I can't say they're very good. There's the other destroyer. Rolkatsuki is basically surrounded by destroyers right now. Secondaries are going off to try to hit that Farragut. That T-22 up ahead seems to be stopped. I think he beached himself and he is popping smoke. Now as you can see, Rolkatsuki is not spotted. That T-22 was the only thing spotting them, and it looks like he panic dumped his torpedoes, completely able to dodge those. Nice slot right there for the Dunkirk to fit through. And like I said, Rolkatsuki really hasn't slowed down. They have slowed down a little bit, but it looks like the T-22 is backed out of his smoke screen, And he's gonna eat it. Full load of high explosive after taking armor piercing from the Dunkirk. And now Rolkatsuki's up to 12,000 damage. So very, very good damage farming off that destroyer. And now we have, well, since we're pushed up this far, we have literally the whole enemy team to deal with. I mean, look at what's in front of them. There's a ton of battleships. One of them being a Warspite, which is, it's easy for the Warspite's big guns at the tier to overmatch regular bow armor. Not to mention the Dunkirk's slightly thinner bow armor. As you can see, Rolkatsuki empties out the high explosive. Warspite is starting to pound damage in. Rolkatsuki did set a fire on that New York, but I do believe the New York put it out. Armor piercing is loaded again as all these battleships that are like 4 to 5 kilometers away are broadside to it. To this Dunkirk with the 8 main batteries it has in the front. Now Rolkatsuki does have some support on their right side. They have a cruiser and a destroyer over there, making sure that that Farragut class that's off to the left of the screen right now can't come back. And look at the pounding this ship has taken. It's getting a lot of flak from the front just from armor piercing from all the ships. Friendly carrier dropping some torps to try to dissuade the push. But that Warspite's an issue. The Nuremberg's an issue if he switches to high explosive. But other than that, the Dunkirk's very good at bouncing smaller shells like from the Bayern or the New York, and very good hit on the Warspite right there. Checking behind to make sure that Farragut can't sneak in. And another good thing to note is the only thing that fires high explosive secondaries at this tier is the Warspite. Or, I mean the American ones might, but they're not as dangerous as the Warspite or the Bayern secondaries. And the Bayerns mostly fire armor piercing. Nuremberg way out there. He's an issue now since he switched to high explosive to try to light Rolkatsuki on fire. The Warspite and the whole enemy team still charging right in. Rolkatsuki's backing up, but they are quickly running out of room as there's an island behind them. No real sense in dropping that spotter plane right now since it'll just be shot down immediately. But you can see Rolkatsuki's team's kind of basically done the normal thing, stacked up behind the islands, except for these 2 cruisers which are nicely pushed out. Very broadside Leander right there. I'm not sure what they're expecting. Will that be a citadel? Nope, all over pens. God damn British cruisers. You wouldn't think the tiny guns on this French battleship would overpen that. And you can see Rolkatsuki maneuvering around the corner, trying to get out of line of fire of some of these ships and trying to keep the ship angled at the same time. But like I said, running out of room quickly, and they have now backed into the island with all these enemy ships pushing on them. What is this, a Bayern? Yep. Now that's not a good thing. The Warspite's pretty heavily angled. Not a lot of damage there, but decent enough to probably worry the Warspite, though its guns were pointed this way. The Bayern's not even looking this way, and he continues sailing towards Rolkatsuki, probably expecting them to continue backing up. The thing with German battleships is you know you're not going to one-shot them. It's really hard to just citadel them from the side and completely destroy them in one go. So it's probably, if there's good hits like that, it's going to take 2 to 3 shots to actually put that Bayern down. And the team behind Rolkatsuki is not doing a great job at it at the moment since they're not even firing at it really. That Bayern is absolutely ripping into all of them. And what Rolkatsuki needs to do here is rotate the turrets back to point at the Bayern since nothing else is really an issue. And it looks like Rolkatsuki has noticed that a little late and now has to swing the ship in order to get these turrets turning fast enough to get a nice shot at that Bayern's broadside. Bayern still not looking this way. Secondaries are pounding into both ships. 1 shot, 2 shots, didn't quite sink the Bayern. That's not really good. All those shells hit, but it didn't quite take them down. Some fire coming in from the Nuremberg on the side. Secondaries are still going off. That Bayern's on fire. Hopefully somebody will be able to put that down. Rolkatsuki's on fire. Dunkirk's just absolutely blazing into the enemy team here. Like I said, the speed can be quite an advantage sometimes. Even though it has a long turn radius, still getting the ship around in time to angle against that New York. Now New York probably going to try to ram here. Really nice penetration through the front of the New York for 10,000 damage. New York has 7,000 left. It'd be wise for him to ram, but it doesn't look like he's turning back in too much. Oh, no, he is at the end, but it's too late at this point. The Bayern is way too fast for that turn the New York cannot make now. And the New York's going to die to the friendly team behind Rolkatsuki. As Rolkatsuki just sails by and continues on the killing spree. Looks like a lot of the enemy cruisers have taken tail and run. And there's another Bayern in front of Rolkatsuki, completely broadside again. But like I said, it's going to take a couple shots to take them down unless you detonate them. And a couple shots like that. That was a 17k hit. Very good hit in the side of the Bayern. Definitely going to make him double think what he's doing there. Ooh, there's that fire spamming Nuremberg over there. Another fire. I think the Bayern's firing high explosive, which is definitely not a good thing. Damage control party has been used. Damage repair party is on cooldown. Nuremberg definitely has to be put down. He has 6-kilometer torpedoes that he can definitely employ if Rolkatsuki tries to push on the Bayern. And those 3 overpens are not going to be enough to put that cruiser down. And since there's no destroyers left, what Rolkatsuki really has to worry about right now are the torpedoes. The high explosive's pretty dangerous at the moment with this amount of health, but it's not something that won't be repairable if Rolkatsuki survives long enough. What's this Bayern going to do? Is he going to give us a good angle? Will the shells penetrate? 6.7 thousand damage, not a great roll. Could have been better. High caliber award going out, so, I mean, shows a lot of damage done. And what Rolkatsuki needs to worry about right now is those enemy cruisers pushing on them, and getting torpedoes around the side of this island before Rolkatsuki can react or while Rolkatsuki is reloading. And what the issue is here is both those torpedoes in front of Rolkatsuki have torpedoes, and they are both pretty decent range. I think the Leanders are 8-kilometer and the Nurembergs are 6. Nuremberg is down, but it's going to take 2 shots to put down both these cruisers. And while the Dunkirk does have a fast rate of fire, it is still a battleship, so it's not the fastest in the world. There's a set of torpedoes probably at that angle from the Leander. And that Leander needs to get put down. Low health, those shots will put it down, and go figure, a freaking Citadel at the end. Couldn't do that earlier, Dunkirk. Come on. The one Citadel in the game so far does 1,000 damage. Always impressive. And something Rolkatsuki could have done right there is pop the spotter plane up to see where those cruisers are going. But, as it turned out, didn't have to do that, and it doesn't matter right now. That spotter plane is in reserve in case the enemy carrier decides to interfere with the push that's going to occur now. So 2 cruisers left on the enemy team along with a carrier. One cruiser appears to be back by their base, the other one appears to be closer to the friendly base over on the east side of the map, and then the carrier's in the usual spot at this low tier behind the island in the back. Looks like there's a Cleveland back at base, which could be an issue if he does get to range and starts landing shots in succession and starting fires, because Rolkatsuki's at very low health and no repairs left. What health they have right now is what they get for the rest of the battle. Does appear to be that Cleveland is sailing this way to try to stop a push, or they're outrunning something. I'm not entirely sure. But there's 2 battleships and 2 cruisers pushing on them. Or is it 3? I can't really tell from my mini-map. It's kind of compact in the Sony Vegas view. But that Cleveland's coming into range now. Enemy carriers, or friendly carrier, looks like he's going to try to do an attempt on him, or try to go find the enemy carrier. Now Rolkatsuki is detected right now by that Cleveland. The ship has a huge detection radius for the tier because it is so tall and so big. But I don't think that Cleveland's going to try to shoot. If they do, he'll be immediately spotted, and he doesn't really have the arcs for it. Rolkatsuki throwing a... Oh, there's the Cleveland. He shot at the cruiser with armor piercing. That's not a good idea for him, because there's a battleship right here. And he just turned broadside to the battleship. So he's going to lose 6,500 health for that. Oh, that poor cruiser fool. And he's not doing too hot right now. He's going to have another battleship shooting at him soon. There's a cruiser starting to pound him. He's basically sailing broadside to the enemy fleet here, and while he is in a Cleveland and the Citadel's kind of small, it's not that hard to hit with plenty of shots. Shots out, not great shots, only 2,000 damage, leaving him at low health, and I think the friendly team's going to finish him off. Yep, friendly New Mexico finally got some angles and took him out. Looks like the enemy bogue has lost his way and is now sailing back towards the enemy fleet over here, or at least his enemy fleet, and is now trying to make a break for it at the bogue's top speed of about 15 knots. He has no chance. I can easily say that now. He will not outrun, he will not outhide. There's a really good citadel right there on the bogue, dealing 21,000 damage to the poor thing. And he's just going to be put out of his misery here pretty soon. I mean, obviously it wasn't enough for him to lose that whole squadron of planes in the beginning, with the bogue not carrying many planes to begin with. But now he's going to lose his ship because he sailed the wrong way and he can't escape because that ship's slow as hell and he has no team left. So Rolkatsuki claims the kill on the bogue. Quite an easy kill right there. No real opposition from the bogue, since I do believe he was mostly out of planes. He also has very long reloads on planes that have been shot down completely, so he might have been doing one of those too. So all that's left is a Badonye, and he's across the map. Pretty sure they're going to be able to cap before that Badonye even decides if he wants to cap or not, or whether that battleship over there sinks them, or Rolkatsuki actually gets a shot at the damn thing. Which probably won't happen. Badonye is a very fast ship. It's fairly lightly armored. It's definitely not a heavy cruiser by any standard, and it only has little guns. So it's definitely a flamethrower that sits at range and tries not to get citadeled by battleships. But I don't think he's going to do much over there, or at least not come back to rescue his base. He's taking a lot of damage, but he's dueling it out with that Koenig. Badonye does have 4-kilometer torpedoes, and if that Koenig's dumb enough, he won't evade them. Looks like the Badonye has won that one. His light cruiser has beaten the odds and killed a battleship. But I think the cap's going to go out before any of the friendly team leaves it, or the Badonye even attempts to reset it. He doesn't really have the range to in the first place. So yeah, this game's just about over. He's not going to kill the friendly carrier in time, and he's definitely not going to cap. So his team has lost. Good try to him for sinking that battleship. But Rolkatsuki's tanking job and all the damage that they have done was too damn good for them. And their battleships really couldn't compete with it. A lot of them sailed broadside, the Warspite got stuck on an island, and they just got hammered. Whether it was the fleet hiding behind Rolkatsuki, or Rolkatsuki doing the damage themselves, they absolutely trashed that enemy fleet, and in a very, 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 very spectacular way. You don't usually see a Dunkirk up front and tanking like that really early in the battle, especially not for that long. Usually they turn tail and run. I know I usually do. While I will push like Rolkatsuki does in this battle, I definitely will not sit there and tank for a whole team for the whole match. I'll try to turn my side when all the battleships are reloading and get the hell out of there, which sometimes earns me a citadel into the side, but more times than that, usually I can kind of retreat and use the excellent gun angles on the ship, because it does angle them very far behind the ship to basically demolish the enemy fleet as I try to sail away. So very good game from Rolkatsuki, showing the rather impressive tanking ability of the Tier 6 Dunkirk in a Tier 6 heavy match. I'm just going to make that clear that there weren't any Tier 7 or 8 ships in this, because then the Dunkirk would kind of suffer, but showing off the power of the Dunkirk when it's evenly matched. So getting into the first of the after battle reports, shows 154,000 damage done in this match, which is a pretty good, pretty decent amount for a Tier 6 battleship. It's definitely a large portion of the enemy fleet, and only one of those citadels actually did full damage, so you can't really count them for too much of it. A lot of it was just regular penetrations into the side of those broadside battleships. Confederate, High Caliber, and Dreadnought in this ship, since Rolkatsuki tanked so much damage that match, and basically repaired as much as they possibly could, and ended the battle with health left. And going into the second of the end screen list, shows Rolkatsuki at the top of the team with just over 2,000 base experience, with the next person below them scoring 1,500. And I do believe that was a Cleveland that was supporting them all the way during that side engagement, so I'm sure both of them did a lot of damage to the enemy battleships, and Rolkatsuki definitely got a lot of tanking potential damage EXP in there. I do believe you get a decent chunk from potential damage, but I can't quite confirm that since Wargaming doesn't like to give us those numbers, and nobody's quite proven that to us yet, whether potential damage really gives you a lot of EXP or not. But can easily say a good chunk of that was from potential damage. Finally, the damage and potential damage screen. That's a key note on this. Damage caused in total, out of the 154,000 damage that Rolkatsuki did during that whole battle, 144,000 was from the main batteries, 137 of that being from armor piercing and only 6,000 being from high explosive. While this is a very good high explosive spamming ship, armor piercing is definitely potent when a lot of ships like that give you their sides. 9,500 damage from secondaries. At the start I said it didn't have a very good secondary suite, but when you get it into a brawling situation, it can definitely tear up enemy ships that aren't even looking at it. Finally, I wanted to look over at potential damage. 2,200,000 potential damage done. That's a massive amount. That's like tier 10 levels of potential damage. And Rolkatsuki tanked it in a ship that's generally not well known for its tanking. Usually at that tier you're looking at the Arizona or the Warspite for bow tanking, because those have the armor that kind of auto bounces stuff from the front. And Rolkatsuki did it in a Dunkirk. So very, very good job to Rolkatsuki. You keep on enjoying that Dunkirk. I'll definitely keep enjoying mine. I learn from every one of the replays that you send me, and I hope you guys that are watching learn something too. If not, I hope it gives you a little bit of courage to, shove your ship into the enemy fleet when you know you aren't going to get swamped with torpedoes or aren't going to get burned to the ground. Good luck out there, good luck trying new things, and have a great day.